Welcome.
Jesus is our inspiration.
Welcome to the deposit.
God's love is our motivation.
Welcome to the deposit with Brian and Dinah Lee.
It's our inspiration.
Where we use what God has deposited in us
It's our
to
motivation.
inspire you to make a difference with what
It's
God
our
has deposited
inspiration.
in you. So come on,
It's our motivation.
let's do this. Let's go. Let's go. Hello.
Let's go. It's time to go. Welcome to the deposit with Brian and Dinah Lee.
Yeah, we're so glad to have you today.
We are on episode 13. So come on in, drop a line in the comments, a hello. I actually didn't even have my computer here today. Anyways, we welcome you. Say hello in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from. And we're so excited to get to have you come on and watch today's episode.
Yeah.
We have a very special guest.
Today on the deposit, we'll be talking with Wanda Gardner, and we'll be discussing what it takes to make a difference in this world when there are real issues, real health issues, and personal challenges standing in our way. And so we just want to really thank you for coming. And so just remember that we are just ordinary people using what God has deposited in us to inspire hope and life and encourage you to make a difference with what God has deposited in you.
Yes. So just a reminder, as you're blessed listening, or if you're just touched, inspired, encouraged by a story that we share, please like our Facebook deposit page. We also have our YouTube deposit page. So like and share and just forward it to someone who you think might be blessed by it.
Yeah. And we've just been so amazed by the response and the opportunities to just that has expanded for us to just reach people. Every week we get to different people reach out, and we're able to minister to them in a different way in different parts of the world, different parts of Canada and the U.S. And even now that we started this, we always used to pray for divine appointments.
Yeah.
But now when we pray, we ask God to have divine appointments online and in person.
Yes.
And so this last couple of weeks, it's been just amazing how as you pray those things, God actually answers them. And if you're ready to just step out or just be available, man, people's lives can be touched. Just yesterday, I was doing my prayer walk, 5-mile crazy walk around, and I was in this park called Del Air Park. And I had this shirt on that said, tell me your story. And so I walked past this older lady, and as she's walking away, she goes, well, tell me your story. Well, I'm old. and you get old, I'm tired. And I look back and I said, but you're precious. And she goes, oh, and I can tell that you love people and that you make a difference. And she goes, well, yes, I do love people. And I'm a Christian. And are you a Christian? I go, yeah. And then she said, just this morning I was praying, me and my husband were praying, and we were just asking God, how can we make a difference? How can we reach out? We're getting older and we're not moving like we used to, but how can we make a difference? And I just told her, I said, you know what? It all starts with prayer. As we pray and open our hearts to God to move, or just God to bring things into our place and be ready to have an answer and just to love on people, it happens. And so she goes, this is an answered prayer to what we prayed just that morning. And so it all started with a divine appointment. So that was a divine appointment. We have many of those that are happening. But even today, we met with Wanda. It was a divine appointment. It started with Wanda, and that's how we met.
Yeah, we actually met Wanda on our first Awaken Life tour. Many of you have heard about that tour through 20 states, 4 provinces in an 8-week time span in a motorhome that was donated to us. And we just had just an incredible time. We often say, that tour just really changed us.
Yeah.
It really set the stage for what God wanted to do in and through our lives. And we met Wanda at we were actually went to Harding, Arkansas to see our friends Christian Trisha Clem, who were pastors at Highland Assembly.
And we hadn't seen them in almost 15 years.
Yeah, exactly. And so we pulled in, and they were insistent that we stay at this lodge. And so we went to the Spring River Lodge, in Hardy, Arkansas, and was greeted by such a precious lady, and her name is Wanda. So we would like to bring her on the show today.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
It's so good to see y'all in person.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's so good to see
Can't believe
you.
it's been 4 years and our lives could collide once again.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know,
You broke my heart when you told me that you hadn't thought of me in 4 years.
no, no. The way that it worked was that we thought of you over. We actually talked about you from time to time as well. But so we did think about you. So
Yes.
so
Oh, okay. I'll take that back then.
And so, but we actually didn't necessarily finish that when we were talking with you. No, when we met you, it was so good to see you because I actually stepped back and just watch you interact with people and how you just were like a mom there. You just spoke so tenderly and also firmly at times, but it was no doubt that you really love people and that you were just a gift. I just saw you as a gift there. And so as we were talking, suddenly as I was talking, I was just like, man, there's something more to this lady than she's revealing. And I remember that throughout the night, God gave me some words for you and your daughter, and we prayed, and we laughed, we cried, we prayed, and it was just it was an incredible divine appointment that happened at that hotel. And you know what? And also there's also a few other people that we got to minister and pray with as well. And so
That's right.
Chris and Trisha had bought us pizza and the big cookie pizza thing, and we were sharing it with you. And there was that young man that he used to drive truck, and he would stop at your lodge too. I think you knew who he was, and we really got to minister to him that night as well and pray with you and your daughter, which was really special. At that time, she was going through a difficult time at that time.
And so,
right.
So, Wanda, how about you just introduce yourself? Just tell us a little bit about you and your hubby, and
Well, my name is Wanda Garner, and I'm just no hillbilly living up in the hills. And my last job, of course, was working there at the motel, and I worked there for several years. And we did have a family there. We had truck drivers and other people that were routine guests, and so we became one big family. And I just to tell you, I love that family. It's just truth. That's just how it was. We loved each other. There were guests that we would hug in the hallways, we didn't meet. And it was just an incredible job. But because of health issues, I had to quit that job. And I'm actually on disability now. But my husband and I do a radio program. We do it live. It's every Monday at 1:00, and it's called Outdoors Live with Tommy and Wanda. And we've been on the air for close to 20 years now.
Wow.
I mean, we were doing this even before I got disabled. I would, it was my daytime job, one day a week. And at the motel, I worked evenings from 3 to midnight, which was, those were, if there was anything bad going to happen at the motel, it was going to happen on my shift. And that's just how it was. And I've had to call the police a few times. I've had to break up a few fights, and I've even had to, drag a couple of drunks by their shirt collar and make them go to bed. I could think of a lot of things that was involved in that job, but the one thing that I liked about that job more than any job I've ever had is that I got to meet new people every single day.
Yeah.
And it was my opportunity most of the time to share my testimony, to share my God with them. And it was just an incredible time.
Wow. And you,
Yeah, and I miss that.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, it's
So,
interesting. It's interesting. I was thinking that the other yesterday is like when Jesus, when God wanted to connect with man, He sent Jesus, and He to give life, right?
right.
And so when we give life. When we withhold what we have, we withhold life. And I knew, like, when I saw you, that you were a life, you were a life giver. That there was something special. I couldn't put my hand on it. And I remember saying to you, there's something special about you, but there's something more about you. And you go, no. What did you say? You said, I'm a, what you,
I'm a nobody.
I'm a nobody. And so, and I could tell you wanted to make it stop there. But I was just like, no, no, no. There's something about you. That famous thing on you. What is it? And so, do you remember that?
I do remember that. And I just wanted you to shut up and go away. I finally did answer your question. I
Yeah.
finally did. And I kept thinking, how does he know all this? Because it was like you were reading a book, and there I was, just my whole life story right in front of you. But
Right.
I actually, back in my younger years, when I was 100 pounds and long blonde hair, I actually hosted the first all women hunting television show.
Wow.
Wow.
And it was called Women Hunters Outdoors. And my husband was the director, and our main cameraman, and all, and we really enjoyed it. But you get 9 women together, and everybody has a different opinion, and we didn't stick together for a very long time. I think we aired a couple of years
Mhm.
on the Sportsman's Channel, but
But yeah,
poor Tommy working with 9 women, it was really a challenge for him.
well, I'm the only male in my house,
Yeah.
Yes.
and also even during COVID, we actually had, like, what,
Yeah.
five girls, and just me and my father-in-law, and that was a beautiful time and very challenging time at sometimes too. So I can just imagine. I mean, you
Yeah.
probably had to pray for Tommy a lot. But
Yeah.
you know, uh, one of the things that just tell us about about you and Tommy, and because you guys have fostered over 100 kids.
children.
Yes, we did foster care for several years, and what was interesting about that, now Tommy and I had 5 biological children. They were all grown except for the youngest, who was actually in high school. I
Yeah.
believe he was a senior, and the opportunity came up for Tommy and I to adopt 2 children. It was actually a little boy and girl. They were siblings. The little girl was 4, and the little boy was 6 months and 2 days old. And the day that we adopted them, we actually opened our home to foster care. We had been going through the classes. So
Wow.
all of this sort of happened at once. It was 2 different parts of our life that sort of intermingled. They just sort of clashed to begin with. Because we had seen a need for foster care in our area. Some of these children were being taken far away to different counties because there were not enough foster parents in our county.
Wow.
And I had mentioned to you earlier that this is actually the poorest county in Arkansas.
Wow.
and a lot of drug problems, a lot of unemployment, parents raising children in cars, parents raising children with no electricity or running water. Um, so there's a lot of issues going on here. A lot, and when I say unemployment, there is just no industry at all in this area.
Right.
If you're not self-employed doing something, there's just very few jobs. Um, but the opportunity came up for us to adopt these two children while we were opening our home for foster care, getting it ready, and meeting the state standard.
Hmm.
And so we were the day that we adopted our first two children, which were children 6 and 7.
Yeah.
We opened our home to two teenage girls, and it was actually one of those girls that when she walked into the house that evening, Tommy and I, and we're a pair. I mean, we're our team. God put us together, and we work very well off each other.
Mhm.
Um, but we were in the kitchen, and Tommy was cooking, and I was cooking, and the children were setting the table, and this one girl, I mean, her jaw just dropped, and she said, "Y'all eat meals here?" And I
Wow.
said, "Yeah, we eat meals. We actually cook, and we sit down at the table together, and we eat together." And that was something she said she was never accustomed to. And this was a 16-year-old girl.
Wow.
Wow.
Um, and the other girl that we took in was her 15-year-old sister. So it was two girls, 15 and 16. And Danielle just couldn't believe that we actually sit down and ate meals together.
Wow.
And that was just something in her 16 years of life that she had never experienced.
Wow.
And she said the foster home that she came from, she said all we ever ate was ramen noodles. And I said, "Oh, honey, you're not going to eat those things here at our house.
Well,
We don't allow ramen noodles in our house."
well,
So
well, you
during
know
that
what?
time, we had
Y-
taken in over, at one time, I had a notebook and I was keeping up with every child that came through our home. And we
Yeah.
had taken in over 100 children.
Wow.
Um,
That is
uh,
that is so it's amazing. And in that time you had mentioned that you were dealing with health issues as well. And so how did you, I guess, keep going in the midst of that? Because, all the health challenges that you had could take anybody out and say, I just don't have it in
Yeah.
me.
In fact, even just give us a snapshot of some of the physical ailments that you were dealing with while you were doing the foster care.
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, I have 26 different diagnoses today. Um, we started with I have arthritis in my spine and hips. I have arthritis. I have bulging disc. I have pinched nerves. I have COPD, restrictive lung disease. I have something called alpha 1 emphysema. It's actually a hereditary emphysema. And my mother had emphysema, and we never understood that. She never smoked a day in her life, and we couldn't figure out why my mother had emphysema. And my pulmonologist found that out. He said, when they tested me for it, he said, "This is just a hereditary condition. It's just in your genes. You're going to have it." Um, I have scoliosis. I've lost 2 inches in the last several years. I have osteoporosis really bad. My bones right now are extremely brittle.
Wow.
Um,
Wow. And
and I could go on and on and on, but mostly I'm in pain. This past week, I had seen a pain doctor who actually went in. I had cyst in my vertebrae, and between L5 and S1, I had numerous. We thought we had one until He went in to drain the fluid out of it because it was pressing against a nerve.
Wow.
And when he took the x-ray and started looking, he said, "You've got several cysts. It's not just one, it's several." And so he started draining, or it's like popping balloons, sort of. He went in, and that took a lot of pressure off the
Wow.
nerves in my spine.
Mm-hmm.
There were days I couldn't walk at all.
Wow.
There's days I didn't get out of bed at all.
Wow.
And I'm sorry, I turned my head because my husband just walked in.
Aw.
But
Hi, Tom.
he caught my attention. Saw something move out of the corner of my eye.
Well, Wanda, you know what? That's the kind of thing that really just touched our lives when we met you, because we met you at the hotel. We hung out with you a little bit, and then you also invited us for a Hungry Man breakfast that you bragged about. With all the, and you just kept on saying it, and it's made our mouths water. And so we just kind of invited ourselves over after you said it. And so, but when we came to your house, it kind of just blew us away. When we got in there, we really knew that you were into hunting and things because of all the bucks that are mounted to the wall.
I think we can see some in your picture there.
And also the camel. You had camel
couches.
Camel couches.
Yes.
Yes, our furniture is camouflage.
And so
that was my husband's idea. If you go to the bathroom, the shower curtain is mossy oak camouflage. And there's deer on the wall of the bathroom. But every wall in my living room is covered with bucks, as you can see behind me.
Yes.
We've run out of room. We've got them in the bedrooms and the dining room. I think there's a pronghorn antelope in the dining room.
Yeah.
There's a bobcat in here, mouflon ram.
So so you know what, Wanda, we felt like when we came to the house, we was like, wow, now we are experiencing Arkansas.
Yeah.
I mean, like we're like, this is for real.
Mm-hmm.
And so but with all that being said, when we began to talk to you and your husband and the tenderhearted, and just you told us the story after story of different things that have happened, and also your ailments, but wow, the heart that you have for kids have been just been amazing to us. And I know that with the foster care, it is a lot of ups and downs. And you already said something about your health challenges, but can you tell us about like taxi, and
yes, I'll share the story about taxi. We had a young lady that came to our home, and her name was Taxi. And I finally asked her one day, I said, "Why did your mama name you Taxi?" And she said, "Because I was born in the back seat of one."
Wow.
And so we thought that was sort of funny, and I thought it but that was actually her name on her birth certificate was Taxi.
Yeah.
And the day that she was taken into foster care, she had a baby sister also that was malnourished. And when I say baby, I mean she was tiny. She was just a tiny infant. And she was so skinny. I mean, you could see all the blood vessels and everything in her body and in her head. And so I got a 2-package deal. But once we got the baby back up to where she was well nourished and doing well, and Taxi was doing really well, I got a call from DHS, and they said they had just come from court. The judge wanted those children to go back home.
Wow.
And I was heartbroken to send them back to the situation that they came out of. The baby was sleeping in a box in the floor. Caseworker told me there was roaches running across her feet while she was standing there talking to the parents. I mean, it was just a really filthy situation, heartbreaking. But I told Taxi to pack her stuff, and I got the baby's stuff packed, and DHS showed up, and we're loading them in the car, and Taxi was standing in the driveway, and she was crying, and she locked eyes with me, and she was screaming, please, please don't make me go. Please let me stay here with you. And the thing that went through my mind was, what child wants to be parted from their mother? Most of my foster children wanted to go home. They miss mom and they miss daddy. They just want to go home. And here I had a child who was begging not to go back home. And that was a really a big warning sign to me that it was just a bad situation. And I just felt so uneasy about sending her home. And it only took 2 to 3 weeks. She was back in foster care again. And of course, by this time I was filled to my limit and I couldn't take her back. Couldn't take her or the baby back. And so it was a sad situation. And honestly, I want to tell you about another young lady we had who was this young lady was a teenager, and she had been adopted as a little girl. And as a teenager, her adopted father was abusing her. And she was crying one night. In fact, she was kicking the walls.
Yeah.
And I went in to see what was going on, and she was just saying, I want to go home. I want to go home. And I said, honey, if you go home, the abuse will start right back up. And she said, I don't care. My daddy can abuse me every single day if he wants to. I just want to go home. That broke my heart. That broke my heart.
Wow. And that's just a few of many stories that I imagine that you've experienced. And so wow,
it's so heavy.
That's so heavy.
And how much it just, burdens your heart. And I just, Brian and I just have so much respect for you and Tommy for, for doing what you did. You saw a need and you just opened up your home. And, earlier said, how is it that you guys did that? What was the foundation that gave you the courage to press through in these seasons?
Well, of course, God was our foundation. Definitely our foundation. But, I believe, and I've always taught my children, God placed us on earth for one reason, and that was to serve him.
Right.
Yeah.
And this was a service that he told us we needed. He told us we had to do this. We don't make major moves without having long talks with God.
Right.
And Tommy was praying and I was praying, and God said, y'all got to do this. And we knew at that time, we knew when to quit too. God told us that. But God was our strength, and we did a lot of praying.
Absolutely. And so you not only had these children in your home, you also ran your church youth camps for these kids.
Yes.
Up until last year, I believe.
Just before COVID.
Just before COVID.
Right before COVID.
You ran it, and it was, and you did it because there was a need, and it just blew me. It just blows me away that with all your health challenges, and then nobody else was willing to step up. You still stepped up, and
yes.
And so, tell us about the last camp you did where you had a king.
we actually rented an old Boy Scout camp, and we decided we was going to give it a try. And I mean, we were overflowed with children,
Mm.
and bless Tommy's heart, he just worked so hard. We had no air conditioning. We slept in like screened in porches. And there were beds in the screened in porches, and that's where we slept. So there was none of the frills,
Yeah.
no electricity either, except up by the kitchen area, which there was a nice large pavilion with picnic tables and ceiling fans, thank goodness. Um, but um, the last year I was walking with a cane, and they had given me one of these canes that had 4 feet on it.
Right.
Because I was falling a lot. My legs would just give out from underneath me, and I would fall. And so I had this one little boy. At the time, I wasn't real used to walking with the cane and keeping up with it. And I just leave it laying everywhere. And this one little boy, he was so cute. He would follow me around, and every time I'd set my cane down, he'd say, "Miss Wanda, you lost your cane again." And so he sort of kept up with me, and I think I fell a total of 3 times that week. But every time, um, uh, somebody was either able to catch me or I was able to catch myself before I totally hit the ground. But this little boy come around the corner once, and I was hugging um, well, it was a 4x4 beam
Yeah.
pole. And I had started to fall, and every time I'd fall, I'd just throw that cane. And I caught myself with that pole, and I was bear hugging it when he come around the corner, and he looked at me sort of funny, and he said, "Miss Wanda, are you okay?" And I said, "No." And I
So
said, "Well,
cute.
you get my cane, it's over there." And so he went and got my cane and made sure I got stood up on my feet okay.
Aw,
And
so
now I'm using a walker, and it's actually a rollator. It's a walker, but it has a seat on it. And um because I can just walk so far and I have to sit, or I can stand for maybe 2 minutes at the most, and then I have to sit because the pain is so severe. My legs just give out. And
Well,
but anyway,
well, you
yeah.
know, Wanda,
I was going to do camp last year.
yeah.
I was going to take my walker,
Right.
but of course the pandemic stopped that.
Right.
COVID-19.
Wow. Well,
Yeah. And I think
We were
you were
not able to have camp last year, and this
right.
year, the parents just voted not to do it this year. They were still scared of the children haven't been vaccinated. Uh, at least none that I know am aware of. None of the children in this area have been vaccinated.
Right.
And now we have the Delta variant to deal with. So we had to cancel church camp 2 years in a row. But I was going to go with my walker this year.
Yeah,
And,
we know you would.
we know you would. Well, you know, Wanda,
there's just
it's
that
been.
need there. And,
Yeah.
and when you see that need, I, anyway, um, I always feel God pulling and tugging at my heart. And I always said if God gave me a talent, it was loving children. Um, I can't seem to get enough. We have a total of 8 children now. We adopted another child.
Wow.
After the initial first 2, we did adopt another one. We got him, he was 3 days old and absolutely beautiful. And he's now 14. And
Amazing.
Well, Wanda.
but anyway, our household has always been full. And I lost count in grandchildren. It's either 16 or 18.
Wow, that's awesome.
And so it's real interesting.
Yeah,
well,
it is. You have such a big heart, and you're so
I'd still adopt.
Yeah.
But of course, the state would see me as unable to do that, and they wouldn't let me have any more children, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
But so Wanda,
I always said there was more room,
so, you
you
know
know,
what?
in my heart and in my house.
Yes.
I'd take
Yeah.
on some more.
Wow. What a heart. You know what? I tell you what, this
Even
is
with all my,
it,
and Tommy had a heart attack several months ago,
yeah. Hey Wanda.
and
Wanda.
Wanda.
so his health is failing
Okay,
also.
I
But
think she can hear us. Hey Wanda.
So talk.
Yeah.
you're waving at me. Can
Yes,
you not?
you know we
I can't hear you.
right. So it's been a really such a good time with you today,
Mm-hmm.
and I tell you what, the thing that really stands out to me, and I hope stands out to those that are listening, is that we all have barriers, we all have things that we and that can stop us or impede us from doing what God wants us to do or do what we need to do, and your barriers are more are probably more pronounced than a lot of people's.
Mm-hmm.
And even one of those things that you deal with would cause people not to pursue anything or even go into self-pity or just are just in a place where they feel paralyzed from doing it. But no matter what's happened to you, you haven't made the excuses. You haven't where you could in people's eyes. You have pressed through and you have really opened up your heart, and God has done a marvelous work.
Mm-hmm. Amazing.
And so one of the things, the last thing that I guess one of the last questions we want to ask is like, with all that you have dealt with
Mm-hmm.
and all of the things that you have walked through, what would you tell someone that has barriers and issues or things that are standing in the way? What would you tell them to do, or your advice to those that still want to make a difference even with barriers in their life? Can you hear us? No.
No. Oh, I don't know what happened.
Okay. Well, we're just gonna.
Yeah. Well, Wanda, we do want to just thank you so much for being on the show with us today. One of the things that Wanda had actually even said was even us calling her to be on the show was an answer to prayer, because through COVID, she's not able to do the things that are definitely on her heart to do, to take care of the kids and to do the camps and all of that. And she was actually just asking God the day before that you tell that part.
Yeah, she was just asking God. You know what? She was in church, and God was yeah, she was in church, and God was speaking. I know, and she was listening to the preacher talk about us having the responsibility to reach the lost, and our responsibility to reach out. And she goes to God, I can't. Look at all the stuff look at all the things I have. I can barely move. And so when I called her to ask her to be on the show, she said, you know what? Well, we already have a show, and I can use that to speak to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt in my heart that there's something new for her to do, that she's not, even though she can't do stuff physically, she does have a story, and she has her voice, and she has the ability to interact with people.
Yeah.
And so for today, even as we do this show, and on the end of the show, the thing that we would like to just encourage you is, like, you saw the barriers and also the obstacles that she had to deal with, but yet she still pressed through. And God, over 100 kids were fostered, adopted, and she ran camps for almost 3 adopted, and she ran camps for 20 years, and many people were impacted. And for us, we were in tears almost all the time while we were at her house, sharing stories, but to see her and her husband's heart for people.
Mm-hmm.
And so so
thank you so much to Wanda for joining us. I'm not sure what happened to our feed there, but we're so grateful that she was able to share just the testimony. And you can see her heart, just a total servant's heart of just wanting to serve and be a servant of the Lord. And so We thank her for being on, and we thank you for joining us this morning. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. God bless you. And yeah, we'll see you
later.
next week.
All right. God bless.
God bless.